There we go. All right. So, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Aware Athlete Show. As always, on the Aware Athlete, we're not only concerned with medals and trophies and ribbons, but we're concerned as an Aware Athlete with the invisible trophies, the things that,
Mhm.
that last a lifetime, the reasons we do what we do. So, having said that, our guest today, I'm very privileged to have with us Tina Shinn. And Tina is uh, an ultra runner, a coach, and an organic farmer. She has actually run at distances from 50K to 100K to 100 miles. And I believe that you actually won first woman at your first 100-mile race. Is that true? Did I get that?
Yeah, that's
Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Cool Moon. Yeah. And you have also coached and encouraged other athletes to get the best out of themselves. I know at least one success story I'm really familiar with. You encouraged someone to successfully complete the Western States 100. So,
Yes,
all right. So,
awesome.
so go. Welcome, Tina.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
it is awesome. It's going to be fun. So, uh, can you tell us when did you first begin to run, and what's the story behind that, and how did you develop that?
Well, really, that's simple. I've actually been just running as long as I can ever remember. I mean, it's just like breathing. It's just me. There hasn't been a time in my life that I didn't run just for the pure love and enjoyment of it, just since I was a little itty bitty thing.
Wow. Now, I
Yeah.
didn't know that. I thought there was a starting point somewhere. I have a little
No.
granddaughter that at 5 or 6 years old, she could already take off and run a mile. So we'll see what happens with her. But I didn't realize it went that far back with you, Tina.
Yeah,
I was just,
I literally let go of the furniture and took off running. Even when I first started walking, she says I kind of went past that, and it's just been running ever since.
wow. Okay. So tell us a little bit about the process, because did you compete in school or?
Well, yeah, I think my very first time competing, my parents let me try some kind of track event when I was, I believe, in third grade, if I'm thinking right. I don't remember how I placed or whatever. It was kind of an odd range of kids, but it seemed like they had like third grade to fifth grade or something. I don't know. I just remember it being kind of a large gap of age. And then the next time I ever even thought about it was when I was in high school, only because I had a coach and PE teacher named Karen Sanguinetti, and she was just an amazing woman. And I actually had her for my PE coach in seventh grade. And so we got to the track part of PE. And when she saw me run for that, she's like, came to, pull me aside. She's all, when you get into ninth grade, you come see me right away. She
Uh,
says, I want you to join the track and cross country, things like that. Cause she would help coach the high schoolers. And so I did, I kept my word, and I came and saw her in ninth grade. And I tried starting the track when it came available. But back then, unfortunately, I would get a lot of respiratory infections and things. I think it may have had something to do with my autoimmune disease. It may have been that my parents both smoked indoors also, and I'm highly allergic to cigarette smoke. So maybe
oh,
between the two, but I never did get to run a meet, and that was very discouraging, because every time it seemed like there was one, I was very sick and I couldn't run. So eventually I just ended up dropping out of it. And so I didn't actually join any kind of running competition stuff until I was in my senior year of high school, when my little friend across the street encouraged me. She says, I'm going to join the cross country team. You need to join it with me. So I'm like, okay. you know,
so
it was
so so you
those
didn't
things.
have those years of training, those 3 previous years in high school. You just did that as a senior.
Yeah, I was always just running. If I felt like going for a run, I went for a run. I'd like encourage the kids, like, hey, let's race from here to there. And I'd like always try to beat them. I mean, that was just my mentality. I've always been highly competitive. just on my own,
Uh,
who's got the strongest abs, who can run the fastest, it was just always my thing.
yeah, so that was one natural gift that you didn't have to hunt for. It was
No,
it was always
until
there.
after, that was the only time I ever had to actually start from some kind of beginning.
In track, you said?
What's that?
Yeah, you broke up just a little bit there. When did you have to start as a new
Oh,
beginning there?
as a new beginning after that wreck I had been in, that was my
Oh,
first time ever had to start from a scratch point to
yeah.
build up to something.
So now your senior year in high school, how did you? You're a competitive person. You said how did you do there with just 1 year's experience? How did you do with that competitive nature and really not? I mean, you kind of kept yourself in shape because you love to run, but what kind of an experience was that? Just doing that kind of cold right off the bat.
Well, I ended up being league champion for all my events. They had me in the 440 relay every once in a while. Just they'd always put me at the tail end so I could catch up and win the 440 relay with everybody.
So
I was good at teaching people, and for the cross country, I ended up being league champion and stuff like that. I actually went to states for I believe it was the 1 mile when I was in track, and being a silly young person. Um, I had my priorities very, very different back then. Even though I loved running so much, the running was a joy for me. It was my love, my something. So I really wasn't good at performing for others as I felt. And so it's kind of funny. Well, at the same time, for the senior year, they have the Disneyland trip. Well, it fell on the exact same day as states. And I'm like, heck no, I'm going to Disneyland. I had never been before. So I bought my ticket. And so everybody gave me the worst time. And no, you made it to States. You've got to go. Oh my God, take your ticket back, get your money back for it. And I very grudgingly did it. And so, of course, you can imagine I ended up running States with no heart in it whatsoever, got my slowest time. And it was basically, unfortunately, at that time, a very big waste of my time. All I could think of was everybody having fun at Disneyland, and I didn't get to go. So, yeah, I had a little pity party. And to this day, unfortunately, I really regret that because, now as an adult, and I didn't get back into competition until what I was it 47 or 48 by the time 2015 came and I started, competing in ultras. And so I really wish that I could have seen what I could have done as a younger person, and how far could have because I enjoy the competition now, whereas before it used to scare the heck out of me.
So that you really felt the pressure then, even though you're competitive, you really felt that pressure.
Yeah, it was, as long as it was just friends and it was, friendly, badgering and, whatever, competing against each other, but when it came to competition and all these people I didn't even know, just screaming their brains out for me as I'm coming through, I'm like, got jobs at me. I was very, very shy back then and very unsure of myself. So it was very overwhelming to, to that
Yeah.
response just because I was running faster than others.
Okay. Hang on for just a second. It looks like
So
I lost you a little bit there, and I'm going to change my internet connection and see if it's better here. I hate to do that, but let's see if this will make it a lot better. Here, it's not available. All right.
okay. Okay. Yeah. You're kind
Yeah, can you hear
of
me?
okay.
I hate to have that happen. Soon we're going to be in a place where we have a much better internet. Okay, we're back here.
There you are again.
You know, that
You got
does happen on these things
here
sometimes.
for a second.
And I want to get the best internet connection I have, and that's what I've got right now. So, uh, all right. So I lost you there for a minute. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, okay.
it's
So,
okay.
you went to Disneyland instead of doing your. Well, you did do the league
No,
champ.
I didn't get
Yeah, you didn't go to Disneyland. Right. Right. Right.
what you're
So,
kind of,
so cross country is a team sport.
yeah,
So how did your team do?
yeah.
Can you hear me?
Um, you know, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good now.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. You know, it's kind of some of the parts that I'm not sure based on my memory issues, but um, I think we did good. I mean, I don't remember. I mean, I know that I had done well as a team. I think it seems like we did well. I can't remember specifics as far as what went on with everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So, um, then it was a huge gap between your high school and you said 47 years old.
Yeah, in
Now,
2015, I think that would make me 47 or 48. I forget which one.
so you had the speed to compete in 400 meters. But so how did you get involved in ultras?
Well, after my wreck,
Okay, go
and
ahead. Now you mentioned that a couple times. Let's just go there then.
okay, that'll probably help a lot.
Yeah.
Lots changed since my wreck, so well, as some people know, I was in a head-on collision in 2011 by a drunk driver, and it was at high speeds. I was going at least about 45 to 50, and he was going about 55, 60 at the time. And so when all was said and done, when I woke up again, things were very different and went through a lot of different things from double vision to slurred speech to falling to the left. I couldn't stand, straight up all that well or walk very well because my last thing to do when he was just about to hit me was, slam on the brakes, do something to try to make this not
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that made the impact go into my leg. And lucky for me, not only did I not die, but uh, I didn't break anything, which is absolutely amazing, unless you want to consider my brain broken. But bone wise and things, I didn't break any bones. It just kind of shifted all those little bones that go from the foot to the ankle. I think there's about 8 of them or something like that. They weren't sitting right at all. And so I couldn't put a lot of pressure on that right foot for a long while. So I had to walk with a cane until that issue got pretty much resolved for the most part anyway. Did some leg tendon damage from my hip down to my foot, things like that, some arm issues in the shoulder and neck, of course. But more than anything, it had given me really bad head trauma, brain trauma, and it wiped out a pretty good, substantial amount of my memory. I would say if I had to put numbers on it, at least a good 90 to 95% of my memory was just gone in the beginning. So there was a lot of things I couldn't do. I didn't drive or work for about 3 months. Um, couldn't, I was in nursing school at the time to get my RN, and I went from being top of my class to I couldn't pass a test to save my life. I couldn't remember anything new, and everything I had learned was gone. So it was a very trying time. And I actually tried, I was in my very last class, so I kept trying to take that class over and over for until 2014. And then we decided I need to take a very big break or possibly just say, you know what, the brain isn't where it needs to be, and let's just kind of stop that, which at this point, we finally have gotten to a point where I'm not back enough to where the information that I need has come back. And trying to remember tons of information being thrown at me like that is, my brain won't accept it. So we've decided that, well, I guess that's just not something I'm going at. And luckily, at least I really love what I do for a living, so that helps. But yeah, so I couldn't run for 3 years.
Wow.
Went through a lot of different things, tons of physical therapy. And then when that got to where it ran out, then I just kind of did my own physical therapy and what made sense. And so I really had to learn new things, try new things, and say, hey, would this work? And so through it all, I really found out a lot about the human body and different things that nobody ever showed me. It was just trial and error. And then I would find out, hey, that worked really well. I'm going to
Yeah.
keep that, you know? So, yeah. And so I guess it was probably around May, June or so in 2014, I decided I really need to run again. I just have to. It was just killing me
Mhm.
not to. So I thought, well, I just start walking. And I literally did. I'd walk about a half mile. It would exhaust me. And I'd say, okay, tomorrow we'll do it again. And I just kept building it up, building it up. I try to go a little faster until eventually I would say around September, I was starting to be able to mix in a little bit of jogging and a little bit of running into that walking. And about that time, I actually heard about Fleet Feet putting on running, every Sunday. And a lot of people would come from Stockton and surrounding areas to come run on the trails near where I live.
Ah,
And through Facebook, I had found out about that. I'm like, oh my gosh, I would love to meet other runners,
wow.
you know. And how did I miss that there was trails like so close by? But anyways, I met them. They ended up being a bunch of ultra runners. And I told them my story and that I was trying to get my running back. And they were just such awesome people. They just kind of took their wings and started having me run with them every Sunday. And
So,
I don't, go ahead. I'm sorry.
so that's great. You just opened up a whole several avenues there to talk about.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
now, what you're on right now is is the ultra running community. So why don't you talk about that a little bit? We both know a little bit about how wonderful that is.
Oh my gosh. The ultra running community is just an amazing bunch of people, no matter where they come from, other states, everywhere. People that I've encountered during races and during training runs have just been so welcoming, so loving, so helpful. It's so much different than when I used to do like the shorter distance running. I mean, even when I ran 3 to 6 miles, I used to say I was a long distance runner,
Yeah.
how we think it is long, really, in reality. But yeah, it's different. People that run shorter distances can compare to the people that run these ultra distances. It's just a different mode. And I think it's because we all know that it's a suffer fest, that we love. There's something weird about that, about the pain. Even though you're in pain at times, there's this joy
Yeah.
of yeah. And
That's another
so
thing there. Yeah.
yeah, and
It's-
we all support each other so, so well. I mean, I even stopped during that first race that I did. I actually had stopped to help a guy who was overheating
yeah.
up the back of the hills, and I kind of stuck with him for a while until I knew he was okay. And it was pretty awesome because further down the line, he was actually doing a 50 miler. And at some point towards the end of his last loop there, he passed me up. He's all, hey, look at me, look who's alive, and this and that. And I was like, oh my God, he's gonna finish the race. I was so happy that I helped him, so that he would be okay to be able to finish it. It was exciting.
So yeah, no, I've seen the same thing. Let's say with the hiking community, the Triple Crown of long distance north south hikes in the U.S. is the Pacific Crest Trail, the Continental Divide, and the Appalachian Trail. But hiking on the Pacific Crest Trail, I was on there 3 days once, and I got to Kennedy Meadows, and I couldn't contact my wife, and they have actually payphone there, and I didn't have any change, and it's like
Oh no.
you know, the saying is hikers got to take care of hikers, and you had all these people helping you, So it's those two communities. That's really something. And if we could just take that into the rest of the country,
Yeah, that it
I'd
would be.
really like to find a way to do that.
I
Uh,
think it's atmosphere too. It's so peaceful and zen. Who can't be happy in the forest and, out in the middle of nowhere where it's so beautiful.
exactly. Yeah, real connection with nature is a real big part of ultra running. And here I am, 70 years old. Yet, if I go out on a trail somewhere, nobody says, "Oh, you're 70 years old. We don't care about you."
Oh, yeah.
You're just all out there. So it is an amazing, amazing thing.
Yeah, I see people. I remember on one of the Western States training runs, I think it was, I saw these two guys, and one of them was in his 80s. And I'm like, man, it just got me all jazzed up. I'm like, whoa, if I was single, I would be all, smacking him, hey,
Yeah,
you want a date? No, I'm
yeah,
being silly now. I was just so, he just like made me so happy and joyful inside and excited. And I just thought, not only is it just for my future of what it could look like, it was just so overwhelming and inspiring to me. I was so excited that he was out there just still being a young whippersnapper, whereas
yeah,
most people, in that age group, they're just so, sitting in a chair all the time. It's so sad.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, when you those can be some of your best years.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So, uh, what's really coming through is your joy in running and living and being in nature and in the community you're involved with, helping others, and you've been helped. I've been helped. I've helped others.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it's pretty cool.
yeah, you helped to me during that one race.
What's that?
I said, you were a huge help to me in that one race.
Oh,
I was,
that's very nice of you. I've actually put on a couple of races, from
oh,
from scratch, but I've never had the experience of trying to crew for somebody in 100 miles. So it was a nice experience for me, and I was just trying to find a way to be useful there. So
yeah, it was awesome. It's
yeah,
so,
it was awesome to be a part of it. And I think you did 75 miles that day.
yeah. Was that, I couldn't remember. I was trying to remember earlier. Was that the time where I gave myself food poisoning?
I know you were having a
Yeah.
little bit of trouble keeping things down. Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah. I think that was it. Yeah, the baby food and it had been out too long because it was a very very hot day. One of those days where you've got to pour water over somebody at every aid station. Yeah,
Yeah, usually cool moon in August. It's an extremely hot time. Even if they try to tell you it'll be in the 90s, it always ends up reaching the low hundreds. And it's just very hot. And yeah, I had made my own pureed food thinking this is going to be awesome. And it was so delicious when I left. But
yeah,
unfortunately, the container I used had a leak. And so it had spoiled by the time that I had went to use it. And yeah, I was an intestinal mess.
yeah. That's
That's when
that's what.
they pulled me at 75 miles. She says, we're not going to be calling any helicopters to pull you off the other side of the mountain. So
Yeah, there just wasn't time left, and but you were going. Yeah.
yeah,
So you mentioned suffering, and
yeah.
that's a funny thing because everybody knows the joy of finishing something like that. I mean, if maybe I haven't run that long, but I have run things that, it's cool when you're done.
Totally.
Yeah.
Even if 50K, you're going to experience a marathon. I mean, you're going to experience suffering.
And then you say, hey, I can do 5 more miles than a marathon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So uh, that goes into a couple of other things here. You said after your accident, when I finally woke up, how long were you out?
I'm really not sure. It could have been 20 minutes. It could have been 40. I don't know. Um, I could remember seeing some people, once I woke up and finally came to a realization that, oh my gosh, because my last thought, of course, was, this is the end. I couldn't imagine at the time when it was about to happen that I could possibly live through that, you know. And so when I actually woke up and realized I was still alive, I was like, I'm still alive, you know. And it took a few moments because my eyes, the not just seeing double, but my vision was, you know, going side to side extremely quickly. And so I was trying to put what I was seeing, you know, I shut my eyes again and make sense of what it was that I was seeing. And finally it kind of clicked that, oh my gosh, that's right, I was in a wreck. And I'm like, you know, it's like, well, is it broken up, or, you know, what, you know, what's going on with the rest of my body, you know, kind of thing. And I do remember that there was people on the side of the road. I think they were fixing a flat as I came through the curve. And I kept thinking, why isn't anybody helping me, you know, and is the other person alive, whatever. But we'll come to find out what they were doing was they were stopping the traffic and keeping people from possibly causing more wreck, you know, where we were at. And eventually they did, as I was trying desperately to get out of my vehicle because it was just like about 3 feet shorter, sides were all rippled, things like that. Couldn't get the door open. But the smoke was from the engine. It was getting more and more, and it was coming into the car with me.
Oh boy.
So terrified that the car was trying to catch fire. And I'm thinking, great, I lived through a wreck. Now I'm going to catch fire, you know? And I was just so scared. I was just panicked at that moment. And I desperately was trying to get that door. I finally got it to pop. And I thought, if it's going to pop, I mean, it's got to open. And I just gave it anything and everything I had. And I got it to open up just enough so I could squeeze my body through there. And about that time, here came the guys, oh my God, let us help you, you know? And so they got me away from the car. But yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that exactly, but
Yeah, I asked how long you were out. So
pretty messed up, you know?
so even with you had airbags, I assume.
Yeah, they all went off. I'm sure that's probably why my nose was sore, but
Yeah.
yeah, I think I actually karate chopped myself because I know one hand was on the wheel and the other was like, you know, kind of thing. So I probably flung my arm in my face, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you can get pretty beat up from just the airbags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They asked me if I hit my head anywhere. I have no clue. I was gone. I was out, and I have no clue what happened
Yeah.
once the impact happened.
So
So
obviously, you just described a very traumatic event there. So, and you were talking about suffering earlier. Let's go back to running 100 miles.
yeah.
That you say that, and we know that you have a great smile when you finish it because it's just so wonderful what you did. You know, you covered 100 miles on your feet, but
Yeah.
but
It's amazing.
in between the start and the finish, talk about some of the low points that happened.
Well, if I could think of a lot of them, you know, it's hard as it is, you know, keeping all your nutrition up through, you know, every hour on the hour, and the drinking and making sure you're getting all you need. But yeah, the chafing, real nut butter has been a huge save to me now that I know about that, and I've been using that. But at the time, all I knew was, you know, deodorant, you know, rub it on some of the areas, you know, and hope it can help. But I did experience some pretty good chafing, especially on my back, where the sports bra hits. That was pretty tender for a long while, and other tender areas.
Yeah,
And the
that can
feet
be
of
that if you don't know, that can be really painful.
Yeah. And the feet, of course, I mean, they weren't used to pounding the ground for that many hours, that many miles. And so, I mean, you can build them up to a certain extent, but then I ended up, of course, with blisters, and blisters are very painful. I can remember my pinky toes just being encapsulated by blister, you
Yeah.
know. And so I didn't really have, let's see, I didn't really have any crew on my first
Oh, you
one.
didn't.
I had my friend, he was he's such a sweetheart, my Steve-O, right? He was coming from work, and after work he was going to meet me, and then he was going to pace me through the night. And he actually was going to attempt to pace me even through the next morning. But that had already put him at, oh gosh, I can't remember what that would have put him at, but I thought he needed some kind of rest, at some point, but he had already done quite a lot of miles with me. But anyways, back to get off course here. But I didn't really have a lot of people to say, okay, this is what you do, for this or that, maybe a little bit of help here and there, because some of the people I had been running that had me under their wings, they had people that were running it also. So they were kind of trying to help me a little here and there where they could, in between trying to help their people. And yeah, so at one point I just kind of put a Band-Aid around it, hoping it would help. And because the other one had already popped. Well, then the other one finally popped, and oh my gosh, just a blister popping is so painful. But at least it finally popped. I got used to that pain. And other different things, things start hurting and you're thinking, oh gosh, is this going to be the end? But somehow, some way, whether it's you get your nutrition under control, your electrolytes, whatever it is, if you just keep going, somehow, some way, it kind of dissipates. And then you're like, wow, maybe a half an hour later, whatever it is, suddenly you're rejuvenated somehow and you're able to running, and yeah,
That's
so
quite a life lesson there. Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Keep going, and what's the saying? It doesn't always get worse.
yeah. If you just keep moving, somehow things can turn themselves around. And
and if you haven't experienced that, it's quite an interesting thing how things resolve. Yeah. Yeah, it's a wonderful thing. So you find out after thinking this might be it, that you could go on further. Yeah. And that's not just in the 100-mile races, but in a lot of things.
Yeah, exactly. You're completely right. That's what I try to encourage people with. It doesn't matter, whether you're running long distance or, getting in shape or coming back from injury, whatever it is, if you just keep your motion, you keep, doing different things to build it up and whatever, you're going to get there. I think sometimes it's the patience, having patience process is the hardest part, really.
Yeah.
And for 100 miles or anything, being patient enough for all that time to that, yes, you're going to get to that finish line. It's just going to take a lot of time and a lot of movement.
Yeah. So you mentioned that the physical pain, a little bit about the emotional, but I know once I had the whole sole of my foot kind of tear off, the whole callus just tore off. Ooh. And by the time I got to a motel, then I took a shower, and the next morning, just putting weight on that. After I put weight on it, it hurt so much to put weight on it, and I couldn't move my foot. Because if you pick it up, it changes the pressure up there. And so that's very, very painful is the point. But also your nutrition really affects your emotional state.
Yeah.
Would you say that?
Oh yeah, most definitely.
And then so talk about the mental side of it. What do you get to the point where you say, darn, I just wish I'd just like to quit? I mean, isn't that on your mind sometimes?
There is.
It'd be nice to quit, yeah.
Yeah, at times that has come, through the years as I keep doing it, especially when other health issues started arising. But I still wanted to make my goal so bad. I can remember being at Canyons 100K and just on my way back, and it's a uphill pretty much the whole entire way back for about a good 5 miles or more. And I'm like, why do I do this to myself?
That's it. I have said that,
I need to fight. I mean,
I say, I don't have to be out here. Why am I out here? But you're but you take care of yourself, and you're so happy that you've had the experience,
Yeah. And I get to the finish line and I'm so overjoyed. And then later on, I'm thinking, gosh, I can't believe I felt that way. I mean, I truly felt that way at the moment. But then I got past that. And then I'm thinking, I mean, I've never had any children myself, but I can only think it's almost like giving birth. You're like, why did I do this? In the middle of
Yeah,
birth,
yeah,
all that pain.
yeah.
And the baby there. I'm so happy I did this,
Yeah, when you
it's,
see that, it makes it all worth it, doesn't it?
it's the only thing I have that I could possibly compare it with slightly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you talked about patience, and you
Yeah.
described your car accident and you recovered from that in a very patient way. You didn't describe
Oh,
it. Was it had to be frustrating.
it was extremely frustrating. I mean, I was as patient as I could be, but
Yeah,
yeah, I definitely was extremely uh, irritated and impatient at times for progressing more and not progressing as fast as I wanted to, you
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Mm.
So a lot of steps along the way. You said it was 3 years before you could walk and run.
I could walk, but before I could run, definitely. I attempted to run at one point. It was way too soon. I actually, when I think back, I actually had, what was that? See, I had the wreck was in 2011, and I think in 2012, I had a few friends actually at that time with the leukemia, and one of them was extremely close to us. And I thought, I really, at that time, I wanted my running back so bad. And at the same time, I thought, wow, they've got this team. I forget what they call that. Do you know what it is for leukemia? They have that team for it, but I can't think of what
Oh,
that's called.
yeah, I can't either. But
They have the, yeah, where you do it as a team. So, anyways, I joined it and they helped me get my running back at that point. I actually completed the marathon, but I walked a lot of that last part and I was in such excruciating pain, but I'm so stubborn that I finished that marathon, and it took me back so bad after that. So I had to wait much longer and let my body try to continue to heal and then fix it from what I had just done. So it kind of set me way back.
yeah, so now
And so yeah,
now we kind of get into
sorry, go ahead.
self-awareness. Yeah, self-awareness and
Yeah, most
self-care. And so with your
yeah, you
autoimmune issues, you had those even before the accident.
yeah, through the years, I mean, it's, I was born with. At the time, we didn't realize, we knew that there was things that was wrong with my blood work, things like that, ever since I was a little tiny baby. Um, but we never knew what it was. So I would go through these things that now I know were flare-ups, but it was more of like, extreme fatigue, things like that we couldn't have a reason for. And but they would come and they would go. It might last maybe a week or something at the most, and then all of a sudden one day, boom, I'd be totally back to normal. And so anyways, but 2017 is when they finally diagnosed me. When it got I had some huge stressors in my life in 2016, and I think that's what actually caused the huge flare up, was the amount of stress I was under at that time. Well, it got so bad, affected my muscles and tendons and ligaments, because it's mixed connective tissue disease. So it attacks all of your connective tissue and things like that. So, started suddenly attacking my muscles. Well, then eventually, I think it was January, February, it attacked my lungs.
Did they
And
have a name for that, or did they just call it an autoimmune disease?
no, the name for it is mixed connective
Or
tissue
mixed
disease.
connected? Yeah, okay, yeah,
It's lupus and two or three other autoimmune diseases that are together,
yeah,
but it's also a thing where it attacks a lot of your connective tissue in your body, basically. So you never know where it's going to get you. There's so many multiple ways of it, unfortunately. But yeah, it ended up affecting my lungs and eventually my heart. And so it's been very trying, because that really, I went from 2016 of having or 2015 to having the best year of running in my life. And 2016 was starting to follow it a little bit. Had a few little things in the middle, up with bronchitis in the middle there somewhere. And then towards the end of the year, I started not feeling well. You know, I was very fatigued, not knowing why. Ran Rio del Lago 100 miler, got through that, but I was so super fatigued, and it wasn't the same kind of fatigue that you would get of, oh, I'm running 100 miles.
Yeah.
So yeah, you get fatigued, you're gonna get tired, you know, all these things you're gonna go through. It was a different kind of fatigue. You know, there's definitely a difference, but I couldn't figure it out. Although my time was good for it, at that point in my training, it should have been better than what it was. So anyways, I kind of poo-pooed it off. And so by 2017, of course, things got so out of control that, you know, my running friends were like, you better go to the doctor and get that checked out. That's just not normal. Because I did a 50K and it actually took me 3.5 hours longer than it should have for me to get to that finish line.
Yeah.
And that's how stubborn I am. I should have stopped the race, you know, and got a DNF, but I finished it anyway, you know.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said for that, but I think a lot of people are going to be very interested in you've talked about self-awareness in your recovery period. You said, I just tried a lot of things and I found, you know, some things worked really well, so I want to keep that. And that's really body, mind, self-awareness when you've tried all those experiments. And
Yeah.
so now you've actually talked about the will to succeed and the will to push it a little bit too early. So how do you find the balance there? Because everybody needs to find that balance, and you've got a lot of experience there, at a lot of frustrating experience, a lot of patience that you've developed. How do you find the balance between, should I push on or should I take care of myself? How do you find that balance?
It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have an extremely high tolerance to pain. I've noticed compared to a lot of people, I've been that way all my life. I mean, I used to be a total tomboy, like, really. And so all the stuff I would do, I'd be playing with the guys all the time, tackle football, climbing trees, you know, just anything the guys would, I'd be right there with them trying to do it better than they could. That was just my mentality, you know. And so I have noticed that I do have very high tolerance to pain, and sometimes that can get a person into trouble because, you know, at times you're not really listening to your body. Your body's saying, hey, I really need to stop. And I end up pushing it above and beyond, probably maybe sometimes what I should. And so I have tried to find a balance of, okay, am I dying? Am I really dying? Or, you know,
Yeah.
push through and it's going to get better. And a lot of times, for the most part, I found that if I'm just patient, try different things, that if I can find that winning combination, I can press on and keep, you know, at least adding on to whatever I'm attempting.
Yeah.
You know.
That's a wonderful thing, Tina. You know, I
Yeah.
don't think that's easy for anybody.
No.
That's kind of what
Yeah.
we call living. And
Yeah.
great job, yeah, because I guess you have to ask the question, is my body saying, if you keep going, you're going to get tired? Or is it saying, if you keep going, you're going to have a setback?
Yeah. I end up in the hospital. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love Courtney. You know, you know, the elite ultra runner who's, I guess, doing the backyard right now. I think she's still in it. I'm
I
so
think
excited.
so. The last time
Oh,
I checked, she was, yeah.
I love that girl so much. I just wish I could have some moments with her because I
Yeah.
feel like we're two peas in a pod, you
I
know?
think so, you know, and I might be able to interview her later. She's kind of indicated some interest there, but we'll see how
Yeah.
that goes. But you really
Yeah.
remind me of her because
I
you're
just,
both so joyous about what you're doing.
I love her spirit. I love
Oh,
that
yeah,
she
yeah.
always that mentality. And I've always, the things she says all the time, I'm like, oh my gosh, I've always totally felt that exact same way. And I've always felt that just because I'm a girl doesn't mean that I can't beat a guy.
No,
You
in
know,
fact,
I
it
do
doesn't
real
mean that at all. In ultra running, I think the women are extremely competitive.
Yeah, and I do realize that. I mean, a lot of guys, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's the way the muscles is structured. I don't know what it is, but you know, a lot of men are definitely stronger than women. It's just a known fact. But I think when it comes down to things, I think if you just really believe, I don't know, and put this joy into it, because you have to have joy, whatever you're going to succeed in, know what it is, you have to come at it with joy. It makes such a huge difference.
See, that's such a wonderful thing for you to say and exude. And yeah, you do. I mean, there it is. And if yeah, if you're getting discouraged in a 100 miler and you embrace that, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, it really does. It's going to be whether you get through that finish line or not,
Yeah.
you know.
And I say that, I haven't actually done 100 miles. I've done other things, but
Yeah.
I do know it makes a big difference to embrace your circumstances.
Yeah.
And yeah, you
Uh,
you mentioned Courtney. She just attempted the fastest known time on the Colorado Trail, and
yeah.
and she had to go to the hospital because
Yeah.
her oxygen level was down at 74. So that's one of those things where you say no more. and,
You have
it,
to then.
and it wasn't a matter of cowardness. It was a matter of self-respect.
Yes,
Yeah,
and keep yourself alive to see another day, to make another
exactly. Yeah,
attempt,
exactly.
definitely. But I have noticed that, and she may have something, there is, you know, the dust being kicked in the air and constantly breathing that dust. I don't know if that's really what, you know, really that the demise of her lungs, you know, being like they were and ending her up in the hospital. Um, but I can only imagine, because I know there's been times in long runs I try to stay away from that cloud of dust, because it really does mess up
Yeah,
breathing and
some trails
coughing.
are so fine that even if my dog runs in front of me, I have to breathe this dust.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, totally.
and Oregon's really like that. And some places probably down there are too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. Some amazing. Along the way, I've been amazed with so many women out there, just and men, most definitely. I mean, anytime anybody's giving their very best, even people that aren't elite, I just am just so thrilled by them and what they put into their races and training. It just they're just kicking some tush, you know.
yeah, that's something really amazing is that somebody will finish an ultra and they'll stay the rest of the day just to congratulate the rest of the people. And
Yeah, that's what I love that so much, and it's been hard at times because especially if families come with me. A lot of times they're like, okay, let's go. And I'm like, but, you know, because if it's up to me, I want to stick around and cheer everybody into the very end,
yeah,
you know, but when you come with people, you know, it's kind of like you're in their hands. And there's been times where I really wanted to stay and I didn't get to. And that kind of a little bit of a bummer there, you know?
yeah, yeah, and yeah, and you do stay around when you can. But that another thing you see in ultras is say somebody will be doing very well and then all of a sudden they have a little injury and they can't overcome it, and so
Yeah.
somebody that they were ahead of would pass them and they'll cheer them on.
Yeah.
It's not like,
Yeah.
dang, they passed me. And so
Yeah.
it's a wonderful spirit. So now we can go into something else because you just mentioned it, and that is you're so happy when other people succeed. So I'm going to ask you, what is a coach? What is it about coaching? What's a good coach? What is one?
Well, I don't know. I think just trying to be there for everybody and trying to encourage them and trying to show them that they're capable of doing more than they could ever imagine.
Yeah,
You know, that's what learning's been as far as for myself is,
yeah,
you know, what I'm capable of. And then when I get to that next huge step, oh my God, I actually did it. Okay, what else am I capable of that I don't know about, you know? And
yeah,
so I
yeah,
encourage that, you know, of okay, what heights are you not reaching yet just because you haven't tried to reach them yet, you know? And I know it's just so exciting. I mean, I've watched so many people that I've coached along the way that had hip surgeries and, you know, knee surgeries and different things. And just knowing based on what I've been through and just coaching in the past for my own teams, uh, knowing what to do to tell them, okay, try this, do these different things. Everybody thinks you have to run like every day, or you have to run 60 miles per week, if you're going to achieve, say, this 100 miler or 100K. I totally don't believe that. And so there are times in my life, I can't do that, either time-based in my life or just that my body couldn't handle that. So I'm always doing other things, the elliptical, just doing little workouts and different things like that. But I fear, if anything, the elliptical is very much kind of mimicking running, but you're not putting the pounding into it. So
Yeah.
anybody who has problems, I've had them use that to get some mileage and that range of motion in without the pounding. So when it comes time to that, to their thing that they're trying to achieve, their body and that issue that they've been having isn't broken down, and having troubles. But yeah, just the way I've been doing things, and then they're able to get to that finish line. It just makes me so excited, that I was able to help them,
Yeah.
through thing to achieve, I don't know. I think I'm just as excited, if not more excited, when somebody else has achieved what their goal has been,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you see somebody whose heart really is in something, it's
Mm-hmm.
very easy for your heart to really be in helping them. And
Yeah. And
I'm,
I think my hardest part, being a coach, is I can be a little hard sometimes, because I know what I've done and what I've put into things. And so I know that things are achievable. Um, that I know when somebody is at a certain time in their life with their training, and I'm like, oh, they're just going to crush it. I know they are, because they're strong enough, everything else. But then something happened during this particular race, that there was their goal race, and they end up cutting out of it. And I'm just like, man, I just know in my heart of hearts, if they had just kept going, they would have met their goal just fine, because they had what they needed, so I'm like, darn, so then I'm hoping they'll try again, and give it their all the next time, and just not give up that next time, and just realize that if they just keep going, they're totally going to make it, no problem.
yeah,
Because you can see when a person is strong enough, but you have to have so much the mental, oh my gosh, it almost has to be way stronger than your strength in your body that you think you have.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's absolutely true. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever read the book. I can't remember the title, but Diana Nyad, have you heard of her?
No.
She did an open water swim from Cuba to, I think, the Florida Keys,
Okay,
and
yeah, I did hear of her. I
yeah,
just didn't
and it
know
took
that.
her 5 times, and it wasn't ever because she gave up. It was because she every time she had to learn something new. She had to learn about getting just the right person who understood the tides and the weather and the currents and the exact day of the month and all of that kind of stuff. She had to learn how to deal with the jellyfish,
Oh, wow.
and this is one thing after another until finally she learned enough that she pulled it off. But it took years of her life to go
Wow.
through that learning process.
Yeah, and sometimes that does happen in ultra running and other things too, definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
That did make it their first time, come back. Even Courtney experienced that with her first 100 miler.
Oh yeah, she
She
did. I remember. Yeah, and then she decided that wasn't too fun to quit.
Yeah, she says, I can remember her saying she was laying on the side of the road whimpering. This just cracked me up.
Yeah,
But yeah, she came back with a vengeance.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
so when you help somebody recover from something, or when you do recover from something like that,
yeah.
I understand this because went through a similar situation, but not that bad a car accident. I fell off
Yeah.
a roof once, uh,
Ow. Oh my
but
gosh.
yeah, I wasn't hurt that badly, but I did break my ankle. Yeah,
Oh no.
yeah,
I broke your ankle. Wow.
yeah,
And you're to this day. Wow.
yeah. And so that actually took me a couple of years to find the right person to help me get the surgery and get
Yeah.
back to where I was. But but I really did want to run. And so you just try to take one step after another one. But maybe you want to run. I did, you did, but everybody wants to have their dignity back
Yeah.
because it's traumatic to lose some of your function in
Oh
life.
my God. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've worked in a similar situation to where I think you work for quite a few years. So I've worked with all kinds of people that have been through worse things than I have.
Yeah. And I see people in the hospital every day that are going through much worse things that I've ever encountered, no matter what I've encountered with my health. Yeah.
So Tina, you are actively coaching?
Yeah, I am. I don't have anybody that I'm personal training right now. What I'm kind of having fun with is I want to go so much broader. Um, I wanted to just help as many people as I absolutely can. So I thought, well, YouTube, you can, reach worldwide, So
Okay.
I'm trying do little promotions and stuff to try to encourage people to join me, get some, exercise and increase their health, and in the same time, it encourages me to keep me on track and for my big goal later on for next
Yeah,
year. And
I was gonna ask you about that. Do you feel like you want to talk about that?
oh yeah, totally.
Okay, now Tina has an awesome, uh, audacious goal. So she is she's got her eyes open on the horizon there, and she is envisioning what a new thing that she might be able to do. So, uh, what else is on the horizon for you, and what would you like to accomplish that's a new challenge?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited. So what I did is, considering my wreck, it was 9 years this year, and I thought, next year is going to be 10 years since my wreck, and a lot's happened in 10 years. Memory's still not fantastic, but it's so much better. And doing things even on the computer and doing these videos and all these different things, it really helps your mind. It really helps you problem solve all these different things. So it's even helping that, get better through time. But I thought if I could just encourage people to join me to get fit for whatever, whether it's, couch to first 5K or, plain old getting fit, period, or whatever, or doing their big goals of running, whatever it is. Um, for my 10-year anniversary, I'm going to be running somewhere. I'm still working on the route completely, but I determined that it's going to be using the Western States trails and all the Auburn and Cool and all those different areas. I think I have an idea, but it should run somewhere around 250 to 255 miles that
Wow.
I'll be doing. And I figured do something like this where it's self-supported, and then that way, of course, everybody knows this year has been a pretty big bummer for races being canceled and things like that. So I thought, well, we don't know what 2021 is going to look like. I'm hoping it will be better. More races kind of here and there are being allowed to hold their race with lesser numbers and doing it certain ways. So maybe we'll be lucky enough to go ahead and have races again for next year looking a little different. But just in case, I thought I need to do something where I can plan it on, myself, self-supported, so that way it can still end up happening. So it'll be October 9th that it'll start on, because it starts on a Saturday, and my record's on the 10th. So, so anyways, yeah, so kind of working on the route, working on getting people that will be able to crew me. It's kind of hard to ask people now to make themselves available for me a year from now. But some people have already said, hey, I'll crew the heck out of you, and some people that would really love to pace me and different things throughout it. And huh?
You're talking about next October.
Yeah, next October. So I figure that that'll give me a complete year to get where I need to be. And that's with, a little bit of weight loss. I've got that pandemic weight on me, I haven't been eating good. But that's another thing people assume just because I'm an ultra runner and, doing all these things that, oh, I'm a super healthy eater and these, this and that all my life. But no, it's actually contrary to the exact opposite. I've actually been a complete junk food junkie all my life. And so I've had to really break those habits because, of course, I'm getting older now, which, a lot of people, you get a little older, things don't metabolize as well as they used to. I'm 52 now. And yeah, so, I put on weight a little easier these days. So I have to behave more and not eat all that stuff that I normally would have. So I thought, okay, all this will also encompass me getting on a healthy track with my diet too, getting those veggies and fruits and all the healthy stuff I should have been eating all of my life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Is
another
that,
area for experimentation because I
yeah,
don't, there's nothing perfect because anything you try to eat, somebody says that's not good for you, like dairy or,
yeah,
you know, or protein's not good for you or carbon, so yeah, you have to really
yeah,
experiment with that, I think, but that's good. Uh, some ultra runners are real junk food eaters and others are vegan or, whatever, but so what do you mean by self-supported? I think there was someone who just did the fastest known time on the Colorado Trail after Courtney, and I
okay.
think that he carried 46,000 calories with him. But you're not talking about that.
No, not so much self-supported as where I'll carry everything on my body. I'll have like, friends, family and stuff helping me with like little, makeshift aid stations, so I can switch out my
Mhm.
bladder, get any new food on me, things like that. But just doing it as fast as I'm able, that's my goal is to say, hey, how fast can I do this? So that's another goal of mine for this.
Yeah,
And yeah, and then who knows, maybe later on somebody will see the route that I'm making and say, ah, that was a pretty cool route. I want to try that too.
yeah.
And then they'll probably poke me on time, but it's okay. I don't care.
So those
But then,
trails you know very well, and you know where a car could stop and all of that. Uh,
yeah, that,
what do you envision the total help that you would need to do that?
oh, wow. I've been trying to, I mean, it's so new, as to trying to think of, all these things. So I've been trying to have some of my friends that understand the logistics of all that better than I do of, how many people would it really take, because I'm giving myself until the 12th of October to finish, you know, and I figure that should be sufficient time, I would think, and so I don't know how many people. I'm still going to be working on that of how many people I would need to crew and how many people to pace along with me so that I don't get delirious and get lost, because that delirious has happened to me before.
Oh, I get
So
lost very easily. That is frustrating.
if I'm not delirious, I'm extremely good at direction. I
You know what
usually don't.
happens if you're running and you take a wrong turn, you get lost really fast because
Yeah. Yeah, especially when it's not going to be like a race where I've got ribbons and things to follow. And even that can be challenging at
yeah,
times.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, I definitely need to have people that are able to support me that know those trails really well and can help me stay on track where I belong, so that I'm
So
not adding unnecessary miles on my already torn
are,
apart body.
are we going to be able to follow your preparation so we can, know
Yeah,
what's going on there?
as time goes on, I'm going to keep sharing more and more as I know more of the exact route and the exact mileage or so. And I'll, I'll be running some of the different parts of the trails to get an idea of what the elevation gains and losses are. So that way, when it comes time, I know what I'm up against and,
Yeah.
things like that. And yeah, it's a lot of planning. That's for sure.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
especially that.
so I hope that you do continue to share that, and we'll see how much help you need. And I'm a long ways off now, but I'm
Yeah.
certainly interested. Uh,
Yeah, I'm excited about it. It'll definitely be the furthest I've ever gone. I've never even done a 200 mile yet. I think the furthest I've gone is, maybe, 100.4, 5 or whatever. But it was kind of funny, you know, when I did that 200, the 2015 100 miler for my first time, I was kind of blown away at, I really, even though I was so happy that finish line was there and I was finally running into it, when I stopped, I thought, wow, this is weird. I really feel like I could have just kept on running. That was kind of strange. So it always left me with that feeling of, well, how far can I run then? You know, can
Yeah,
I
you
just
never know, do you? Until you try, because
try? Yeah. So
you
that
might
I've been
you might be
curious.
even better at the longer ones. Yeah.
Yeah. So this will be my chance to, you know, just go for it and, you know, see how far my feet can take me. It's always amazing to me. Somebody had told me one time, he was a coach for a school in Stockton, and my running buddy there for a little bit. And he would invite me for some different little things to talk to the kids. You know, not too long after I had won that first 100 miler, he would have me come talk to them um, about running and what my experience was. And he told them one day, he's like, yeah, it's like if you ran from here to San Francisco, but a little bit further. And I was like, wow, I never thought of it that way. It was so funny to put it in that kind of a concept
Yeah.
of how I actually was running.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not doing it on the roads, because you can
No,
make
thank
good time
God.
on the roads, but the trails are different.
Yeah, those hills, oh my gosh. They can get you after a while, whether you're going up or down.
So, Tina, do you have any contact information that you'd like to give people?
Yeah, well, if they would like to join me on YouTube for the different workouts and some healthy recipes that I'll be putting on there and different things, they can look me up as Tina Goes Healthy.
Ah,
Uh,
Tina Goes
yeah,
Healthy on YouTube. Okay.
yeah. On Facebook, it's just Tina Shinn. It usually says, I think it says Tina Goes Healthy on that now too. And I'm on Instagram as, let's see, Tina's Running Ultras, I believe I named it. And you can also get to it by, it's like a website kind of thing. It's coach-tina.com, and that'll take you actually straight to the YouTube channel also.
Okay.
But
Coach-Tina.com. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
I got a little contest going. So incorporating into this whole, you know, year of planning for this big goal that I have, I'm wanting people to join me. So there's actually cash prizes in the end, you know, and I'm hoping to encourage people to subscribe. So that's part of it. They subscribe and then they send me an email with their name. So that way I know that they're in my drawing. I put them in the drawing. And so of course they'll be in it for, you know, at the end of the October. I figured after I do my race next October, then I'll give myself about a week to recover.
oh,
Who knows what state I'll be in at that point. But along the way, every month I'm going to be, you know, drawing names for a prize, you know. And so like for November, I'll be drawing names for, I love Scratch products. I use their product as my electrolyte. So I have the 3-packet of the single servings, you know, of different flavors that they can choose from. So that'll be one of the prizes for next month if they're in the drawing. So,
good.
yeah, just try to do some incentive stuff to get people to join me, make it fun, you know, and hopefully succeed at whatever goal that they've made, you know, for the end of that year, you know.
Yeah. Very cool. So, so Tina, thank you so much for your time today. This has been a great conversation. And you know, we always do these things because I know that each story, each person I've interviewed, if you listen to all the interviews that I've done, I know I take away things from them. And I know that I believe that everybody has had something to really help people that listen to them. And there were a lot of gems in this one. And I really appreciate you sharing yourself.
Yeah, thank you
And
so much.
thank you for being my friend too.
Yeah, you. It's been so fun, you know, having you as my friend and in my life. And it was so funny when we first met. You know, I
Yeah.
didn't even know just from Facebook. So meeting you for the first time at a race, you don't know what to expect, and then boom, you were just like there, like, doing everything from washing my feet and changing my shoes. I'm like, wow, this guy's amazing.
Well,
It's just
I
been,
happen to know that feet are important in ultra.
yeah, it's been so neat, the people I've met through, ultra running and everything. It's been great. Thank you so much for thinking of me and having me here with you.
Yeah.
I watched the one with Beverly from the last time you did it, and I'm like, wow, she's like one of my icons also. I mean, I just love that woman. She's just so inspiring to me. And
It was so
watching,
nice of her to share her story, and she also had the joy in what she was doing. It was so obvious, and
yeah.
and that's one of the gems from her interview, that if you're not having fun, it's not worth it.
Yeah, so you are just doing an amazing job here. I love the questions you ask people. It's really cool what you're doing.
Thank you. Yeah.
Mm,
So I hope to continue to be in touch with you. And
yeah.
is there anything else that you would like to add to the interview here?
Not that I can think of. I'm just super happy and just hoping everybody just joins along with me and has fun with me, I I just love being surrounded with people that are, love the things that I enjoy so much.
Well, maybe I'll get down to those Auburn trails again someday.
That'll be fun. You'll
I'll,
have a
I'll,
place to stay.
I have a place. What?
I said you'll have a place to stay.
Oh, that would be nice.
Too
Yeah.
far from Auburn. So you always have an open room here.
Oh, so nice. Yeah. I appreciate that, Tina.
You
Well,
got it.
definitely, I wouldn't mind being down there again. I'll be even older, though.
Hey, age is not a thing. It's all right here.
That's right.
Pushing
Okay.
our
Well,
limits.
thank you, Tina. We'll be in touch.
All right. Thank you so much.
Okay.